Good morning everyone. Today let us discuss some of the important questions of environment and ecology from Prelims point of view. So let us see the first question. So these questions I have arranged from topic wise. So let us see the first question. So how many of the pairs are correct? This is the term and who coined those terms? So who coined the word ecology? Ernst Haeckel, right? And ecosystem was by Arthur Tansley. Okay, but ecological niche, Charles Elton described the concept of ecological niche, but he was not the guy who coined the term. Okay, so none of the pairs are correct. Okay. Next question, consider the following pairs regarding services provided by the ecosystem. So broadly the ecosystem services can be classified under 4 categories. They are as follows: supporting services, provisioning services, regulating services and cultural services. Okay, so let us see which of the pairs are correctly matched. See, supporting services. Okay, let us describe, let me describe what are the services. See, what do you mean by provision? Provisionary services means something which we get material benefits that we derive from the ecosystem. So they can be clubbed under provisioning services. So what can be the examples? Like we are getting food, medicines, raw materials, we have different kind of products that we are getting from the ecosystem. They can be clubbed under provisioning services. Okay, whereas regulating services, okay, so these are non-material. Okay, so regulating services means like different kind of mechanisms which can be found in the environment, like water purification, filtration, okay, carbon sequestration from the atmosphere. Okay, these things which we cannot be seen, they are provisioning services. Okay, next we have cultural services. Cultural services like our traditional knowledge, okay, and you know the spiritual spiritual nature of the ecosystem. So these all and ecotourism. Okay, all these come under cultural services. Whereas the supporting services are those, okay, which maintain the foundation for the sustaining of the ecosystem. So what can be the example for supporting services? Supporting services mean like maintaining the biodiversity, genetic diversity, and all the benefits which we are deriving from the genetic diversity, and this whole nutrient cycle. Okay, like how the matter and everything recycles. Okay, and how everything is replenished in the environment. All this come under supporting services, and also provision of habitats for different kind of species. So these come under supporting services. So this is again you can go through this slide. Okay, it mentions detailedly what different kind of services are under which category. Okay, so in view of this, let us see these statements. Supporting services, habitat for species, this is correct statement. Provisioning services, maintaining soil fertility. Okay, so maintaining soil fertility, it comes under regulatory services, but it is not a provisionary service. Provisional service means the material benefits which we are deriving directly from ecosystem. Okay, so this is wrong. Regulating services means pollination. Yes, pollination is a regulatory service, and cultural service, spiritual well-being. Okay, so all these are correct except for provisioning service. Okay, again similar question. Which of the following can be categorized as regulatory services of ecosystem? Okay, I just told you, right, what do you mean by regulatory services? Okay, carbon sequestration, is it a regulatory service? Yes, maintaining genetic diversity. Okay, so this maintaining of genetic diversity, or the ecosystem diversity, species diversity, and the habitat, all this come under supporting services. Okay, these are the foundational services provided by the ecosystem. So this is not a regulatory service. Moderation of extreme events, this is correct. Water purification, pest control, etc., these are all correct. Again, medicinal resources, okay, this comes under provisionary services, and this is not a regulating service. So 1, 3, 4 and 5, these are the correct statements. Okay, so with this you got the brief idea of the ecosystem and what are the different kind of services offered by the ecosystem, and how they can be categorized. Okay, let us see next question about energy flow, like food chain and food webs and etc. See the first statement, energy flow in a detritus food chain is bidirectional. Okay, so even if you do not know anything about detritus food chain, but just with the word energy flow only, you should be able to put this answer, because energy flow is always unidirectional and it cannot be bidirectional. Even if it is a detritus or a grazing food chain, this statement is a wrong statement, because energy flow is always unidirectional and it is not bidirectional. Next, difference between the energy at two trophic levels is in the form of unusable heat. What do you mean by this? So there is a difference in energy levels between different different trophic levels. Okay, as you are going up the trophic level, there is a loss of energy in the form of heat. Once this heat is lost or energy is lost, it can never be reused again. It is lost forever. Okay, so this is correct statement. Next, Earth as an ecosystem is open with respect to nutrients and closed with respect to energy. Is this correct or incorrect? Incorrect, because see, Earth as an ecosystem, if you are considering this, what is our major source of energy? Solar energy, sun. Okay, so it is an open source. Okay, so with respect of energy, we are open, whereas with respect to nutrient cycling, okay, all the nutrients which are present on the earth, they are getting recycled themselves. Okay, we have different cycles, right? We have gaseous cycles and we have sedimentary cycles. So in form of sedimentary cycles, all these minerals are getting recycled. Okay, so with respect to nutrients, okay, our ecosystem is closed. Okay, except for very rare cases where some meteorites fall, nutrients are generally not being added to our earth as an ecosystem from outside. Okay, almost all the minerals are recycled within the earth only. Okay, క్వశ్చన్ అది ఇది ఇన్కరెక్ట్ అని ఉంది కదా, దాంట్లో కరెక్ట్ అని వచ్చింది అనుకుంటా, సంథింగ్ గ్లిచ్ ఏదో ఉంది అక్కడ. క్వశ్చన్లో సమ్ మిస్టేక్ ఉంది, మైనర్ మిస్టేక్. ఓకే, సో దిస్ ఈజ్ ఇన్కరెక్ట్ స్టేట్మెంట్. సో వాట్ ఆర్ ద ఇన్కరెక్ట్ స్టేట్మెంట్స్? 1 and 3. These two are incorrect statements and statement 2 is correct. Okay, again consider the following statements regarding food chain. Detritus food chain starts from a dead organic matter from the grazing food chain. This is correct statement, because as the grazing food chain ends, some organism, plant or animal matter that which is dead, okay, this is acted upon by detrivores, and from then onwards detritus food chain starts. Okay, so this is correct statement. In a terrestrial ecosystem, a large fraction of energy flows through the grazing food chain. Okay, this is incorrect, because in a terrestrial ecosystem, the energy flow mostly takes place through detritus food chain. Okay, so most of the matter is recycled in detritus food chain. Okay, but whereas in aquatic ecosystem, most of the energy flow is in grazing food chain. Okay, so this you have to understand. In a terrestrial ecosystem, most of the energy flow is through detritus food chain, whereas in aquatic, okay, most of the energy flow is through grazing food chain. So statement B is incorrect. What do you mean by grazing food chain and detritus food chain? Do you know? Can you find the difference?
Detritus is like scavengers which feed.
Scavengers, not just scavengers. We have different kind of We have different kind of organisms which are present in this they are called as saprophytes. Okay, which feed on dead and decayed organic matter. Okay, like scavengers, decomposers, okay, detrivores, etc. Okay, so the energy which these detrivores act upon dead matter is so much more than the energy that is being recycled in the grazing food chain. Okay, so that means we have a food chain, right? So if we can diagrammatically represent the food chain, it will be in the form of a pyramid, energy pyramid, right? Okay, so from this level to this level, then there is a transfer of energy. Okay, and as the energy is transferring, okay, the number of kilocalories that is being transferred is getting reduced. There is an energy loss at each and every level. Okay, so but if we compare the energy that is being transferred by the detritus organisms, okay, that is in much more larger quantity than the energy that is being transferred through this food chain, grazing food chain. Okay, and ecological pyramid always starts with a grazing food chain. One of the another drawback of ecological pyramid concept is that there is no place for saprophytes or the detritus food chain. Okay, that means there is no role for the detritus organisms in this in this ecological pyramid concept. Okay, so again similar concept. Let us see this following statements. Detrivores are usually arthropods and help in the process of remineralization. Okay, what do you mean by arthropods? So mostly insect family, arthropods, those who are having different legs, more than 6 legs, etc., and very small insects and smaller organisms, they are called as arthropods. Okay, so again, so in this question you have to know the difference between detrivores and decomposers. See, detrivores are these little insect type organisms, worms, etc., whereas decomposers are microscopic organisms. Okay, so that is the difference between detrivores and decomposers. Okay, so you cannot club them under similar category. Okay, again the act which they perform is also different. So if some organism like for example in a forest, a lion has eaten a deer. Okay, it has consumed most of the flesh of the deer. Okay, very minute particles are left on that dead body. Okay, now initially in this detritivous food chain, it is now acted upon by whom? This dead body, whatever the leftover dead body is present in this forest, it is acted upon by which animal next? Not directly worms, etc., but usually as soon as the lion leaves, some fox or vultures, these come. Okay, these are scavengers. Whatever the leftover pieces, they will eat all of these particles. Okay, once all of these are completed, next these detrivores will come, worms, insects, etc. Okay, they will feed, they will break these complex molecules. Okay, next again, the final stage we have decomposers. Okay, so this decomposers, they will secrete some enzymes. They cannot ingest the food, so what they do is the enzymes they secrete. Okay, so they are secreting some enzymes, and these enzymes they are dissolving these organic compounds and they are ingesting the energy directly from the outside. Okay, whereas these detrivores, what they do is insects, they ingest this dead matter, they consume, and that consuming thing it metabolizes and it gives them energy. Whereas the decomposers, microorganisms, they extract the energy directly from the outside only. They do not have that body mechanism to eat and digest. Okay, so that is the major difference between detrivores and decomposers. So detrivores directly absorb nutrients. No, detrivores cannot directly absorb the nutrients. In fact, detrivores they ingest. Detrivores ingest and digest the dead matter internally, whereas decomposers they absorb nutrients through external biological process. Okay, so these two statements are incorrect. So only this statement is correct. So consider the following statements again regarding decomposition. See again, why I am focusing here, many questions are about decomposition is because this is the least touched concept when you are studying anything. Okay, remaining all producers, consumers, secondary consumers, that all we know. Okay, but this is least touched concept, so it is for you to give some clarity on these concepts. So addition of urea increases the rate of decomposition. Okay, so this is correct statement. Urea has nitrogen. Okay, so this nitrogen it enhances the rate of decomposition of organic matter. Next, rate of decomposition is faster when detritus is rich in lignin. What do you mean by lignin? What is lignin? Where is it present? Of plants. So basically leaves lo emuntai, leaves lo we have chloroplast and etc., whereas the stem part of the plant or bark, where the hard compound. Okay, so lignin is that compound which gives stability to the plant structure. So lignin is a complex compound. It is present in plants and trees, etc. So if lignin is present in the organic matter, then it is hard for to decompose. Okay, for example, if it is just plants or leaves or flowers, etc., they can be easily decomposed, whereas if the organic matter is containing more lignin. Okay, so lignin is that hard matter which is complex and it is hard to decompose. Okay, so the rate of decomposition is slower when there is lignin in the matter. So this is false statement. Next, anaerobics inhibit decomposition resulting in the buildup of organic matter. What do you mean by anaerobics? Low oxygen conditions. Okay, if there is low oxygen, okay, then the decomposition is slower. Okay, if there is oxygen, then decomposition also enhances because of the oxidation. Next, soil acidity leads to faster decomposition by accelerating the growth of microbes. This is false because as the acidity of soil increases, okay, the conditions become unviable for thriving of microorganisms. If there are no microorganisms, then the decomposition will get slower. Okay, so soil acidity is inversely related with decomposition. As the soil is getting acidic, okay, the decomposition rate will get slower. Okay, so again this is false statement. So only 1 and 3 are correct. Okay, match the following steps. Okay, leaching. if you see here, leaching is accumulation of what. So what do you mean by leaching? Example, in soil formation process, pedology, we study about leaching. Washing away of nutrients. So basically in the soil, as you know, if there is any rainfall or irrigation, in the top layers, whatever nutrients are present, they will be dissolved and they will be washed to the lower layers. Okay, so that is called as leaching. Inorganic nutrients get dissolved in water and go down the soil horizon. Okay, next what is humification? Humification means this making of the humus matter, dark organic matter. Okay, accumulation of dark substance that is resistant to microbial action. Okay, next catabolism. Okay, again catabolism is this biological process which is carried by these microorganisms. Okay, consider the following statements regarding biological oxygen demand and chemical oxygen demand. Okay, so again this BOD is related to the concept of eutrophication. So I hope you know what is eutrophication. What happens in eutrophication? When there is enrichment of nutrients in any water body, then what happens? Because of sudden spike in the nutrient content, the growth of algal bloom, we call it as algal bloom. Okay, the algae will grow at a faster rate. So what happens when algae grows at a faster rate? See, as the algae are reproducing, there is a more demand for oxygen. Okay, so the rate at which they are growing, okay, the oxygen is also depleted at the same rate. Okay, that means if there is more nutrient content in any water body, there is more demand for oxygen. Okay, so this same thing is called as biological oxygen demand. In the same way, if there is more organic matter in water, then what happens? In order to decompose that organic matter, there is a requirement of higher levels of oxygen. Okay, so this is called as biological oxygen demand. Okay, so the water purity can be assessed with the help of biological oxygen demand and chemical oxygen demand. So biological oxygen demand only deals with organic matter, whereas chemical oxygen demand, it deals with oxidation of organic and inorganic matter. Okay, so that is the major difference. Higher biological oxygen demand implies lower dissolved oxygen in the water. Okay, this is correct because as the oxygen content in water is lower, there is greater demand. Okay, so this is correct statement. Presence of organic waste in water reduces the BOD. This is false. If there is more organic matter, then the BOD will increase. Okay, so this is false statement. BOD is used to measure water pollution due to biodegradable waste, correct, but COD measures pollution due to non-biodegradable, not just non-biodegradable but overall waste. Okay, so chemical oxygen demand means the amount of oxygen required for oxidation of both biodegradable waste and non-biodegradable. Okay, actually non-biodegradable waste cannot be decomposed. Okay, so it means not just non-biodegradable waste, but it is organic waste and inorganic waste. Okay, consider the following statements with reference to phytoplankton. Okay, so till now we have seen the food chain in terrestrial ecosystem. Now this is about aquatic ecosystem. So in aquatic ecosystem, what are the primary producers? Phytoplankton. Okay, so like we have plants, so the floating phytoplankton in the water bodies, they are the primary producers. So phytoplankton produce more than 50% of the earth's oxygen. This is correct statement because see what is how much percentage of the earth's surface is covered with oceans? 70%. Yeah, almost 70%. So see there is so much of phytoplankton hanging around and all of them produce oxygen. So this is correct statement. Phytoplankton include algae and bacteria. This is also correct. Okay, so what are the different types of phytoplankton? This name you should remember because every time UPSC tests these concepts, whether you know what are different phytoplanktons, what are the different what do you mean, zooplankton, etc. Okay, so phytoplankton, these four names should be in your mind all the time. What are they? Diatoms, dinoflagellates, okay, cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria is also called as blue-green algae, green algae, coccolithophos, etc. Okay, so these names they should be in your mind. So algae, all these are different types of algae, diatoms, dinoflagellates, etc. Whereas bacteria, best example is cyanobacteria or blue-green algae. So again, this is a confusion statement here. Blue-green algae, there is algae in this word, but blue-green algae is not an algae. Blue-green algae is a type of bacteria, that is cyanobacteria. Okay. Next, all phytoplankton contain chlorophyll. Okay, only with the help of chlorophyll only they are able to produce oxygen and they are able to carry photosynthesis. Okay, so all phytoplankton contain chlorophyll. So all these statements are correct.
Sir, even do cyanobacteria also contain?
Yeah, cyanobacteria also contain. They are in fact the primary organisms which have evolved to generate oxygen on the earth.
In the initial stages of operation of cyanobacteria, they consume oxygen.
They produced oxygen. Cyanobacteria, in fact, they are the organisms which gave birth to this activity of photosynthesis.
Sir, what are the names used by the
Diatoms. Diatoms, dinoflagellates, blue-green algae, green algae, and coccolithophores. Okay, so these are the basic primary 5 different types of phytoplankton. Zooxanthellae. Actually, zooxanthellae is not a plankton. Actually, it is just algae. It is not a phytoplankton or zooplankton. It is just an algae. See, phytoplankton and zooplankton, they are floating organisms. Okay, zooxanthellae cannot float. It needs some shelter home. Okay, it is an algae, not either phytoplankton or zooplankton exactly. Okay, in fact, it may be considered as an example for phytoplankton, but not zooplankton at all. Okay. See, again, this is some example regarding aquatic ecosystem. We have different types of consumers in aquatic ecosystem. So, what are the primary producers? Phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons are consumed by zooplankton. Okay, zooplanktons are consumed by small fishes. Okay, again, small fish is eaten by big fish. Okay, so this is how the food chain in aquatic ecosystem. So, likewise, we have different types of consumers and they can be categorized. Okay, pursuit consumer. What do you mean by pursuit? It is having a ambition. Okay, so that means they are willing to chase the goal. So chasing can be done by here sharks. Okay, so sharks are pursuit consumers. Okay, so they chase their prey, they hunt. Okay, next, ambush. Ambush means sudden attack. Okay, so they are like we have guerrilla army, right? Such kind of attacks. So octopus, they can camouflage into any kind of landscape. So octopus, they cannot be seen by this prey, but suddenly what happens? Octopus comes into action and it kills the prey. Okay, so they are ambush consumers. Next we have scavengers. Okay, scavengers are lobsters. See, lobsters, crabs, etc. They are benthic organisms. Benthic means they are found on the sea floor. Okay, so whatever material falls down, okay, they consume all of the fallen dead material, decay material, etc. Okay, so these are lobsters, scavengers. Next we have grazers. This example is sea turtle. Okay, so sea turtle, whatever kelps and other sea grasses which are present on the ocean, that is consumed by sea turtle. Consider the following statements regarding zooplankton. So zooplankton is the primary consumer of marine ecosystem, correct, because primary producers are phytoplankton whereas primary consumers are zooplankton. Zooxanthellae belongs to a group of zooplankton. Okay, this is wrong. Just because there is zoo in zooxanthellae, it does not mean it is a zooplankton. Okay, so zooxanthellae is an algae. Zooplankton do not have ability to create exoskeleton. This is wrong. Even zooxanthellae, different types of zooxanthellae, they have some shells around their body. So once the zooplankton dies, these shells, this calcium carbonate, they sink to the bottom of the ocean. Okay, so in fact most of the sediments on the bottom of the ocean are created by zooplankton and different organisms, crustaceans, etc., which can form their shells, etc. Okay, so I told you, right, marine snow. So what is marine snow? Marine snow refers to, it is in aquatic habitat only. So whenever any all the matter, organic matter, it can be either exoskeleton, shells, okay, or the excreta of animals or dead matter of animals, etc. Whatever organic matter that is falling in the water bodies from top to bottom. So this is called, they are called as marine snow. If you are present in this ocean ecosystem, so you can see that many of the organic matter and sediments, they are falling down the water column. So that is called as marine snow. So it can be of any matter, organic or inorganic, or it can be excreta of organisms, etc. Which of the following organisms are filter feeders? So what do you mean by filter feeders? So again, filter feeder concept is not limited to aquatic organisms. Okay, many terrestrial and mammals, they can also filter. Okay, so again, what do you mean by filter feeding? Filter feeding means, yeah, you what do you do is you take the whole, you consume the whole water. Okay, you are not cherry picking, you are not picking a specific organism or thing to eat. What do you do is you take whatever it is coming, and after taking that water inside body, you are filtering the materials which are required for you, and you are leaving the excess elements outside. Okay, for example, whales here. So again, there is a specific type of whale called baleen whales. What they do is they have a huge mouth. Okay, so they open their huge mouth, and whatever organisms which are coming in its way, it takes a huge gulp. Okay, so there can be different kinds of organisms like zooplankton or small fishes, krills, etc. So what happens is all these organisms are filtered, and the excess water is thrown away. Okay, just by filtering all these organisms, it consumes. Okay, in the same way, sponges. Okay, so sponges also, they filter through their body organic matter which they want. They can be either phytoplankton or zooplankton, etc., and they relieve away the rest. Next, flamingos. So if you see flamingos, they have a this shaped beak. So flamingos have this shape of beak. So what they do is, with this beak, they go inside water and they take whole water. Okay, so whatever microorganisms or zooplankton or small fishes which are available in that water, it will consume them. Okay, rest water it will throw. Next, jellyfish. So jellyfish also have different tentacles. So with these tentacles, whatever it is catching, it will eat. Okay, so all these are examples for filter feeders. Okay, so that means filter feeding is not limited to aquatic organisms. Even terrestrial organisms can filter feed. Next, see the statement. The number of trophic levels in a food chain is always limited, and the reason they are giving is law of thermodynamics states that whenever energy is transformed, there is a loss of energy in the form of release of heat. Okay, so both are explaining each other. Okay, so how many trophic levels do we have? 4 or maximum 5? I don't think there are 6 trophic levels. Okay, but again, see, again, while considering trophic levels, you should not consider what saprophytes as a trophic level. They are not trophic level. Okay, so trophic levels start. What is the first trophic level? Producers. Okay, producers. Next we have primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. Okay, at the most maximum we can have 5, or maybe somewhere in equatorial maybe 6, but I have never heard 6, but it is limited to 5 only. Okay, the reason why it is limited, the trophic levels are limited and it does not keep on building up is because of loss of energy. Okay, see, if there is 1 lakh kilocalories of energy available, at every level there is a loss of 10%. Okay, it is called as 10% rule. Okay, so at every level there is a 10% loss. So the tip has to be always narrow. Okay, so this is the limiting the ecological pyramid from building up. Okay, so this is called as law of thermodynamics, where it says that whenever there is a transfer of energy, some of the energy is lost in the form of heat and it is never returned back. Okay, so both this statement is correct and R is the correct explanation of the statement A. Again, which of the following statements are correct regarding ecological pyramid? Or the drawbacks of ecological pyramid. Ecological pyramid is based on a simple food chain but not a complex food web. So what happens in a food chain? In a food chain, the energy transfer is always linear. That means it's in a straight line. Whereas in a food web, it is complex. Okay, it's complex intermingling. Okay, sometimes a hen which is there, hen is a consumer, hen is an omnivore. It can either consume any organic matter or it can also consume any small insects or worms, etc. Okay, are you getting this concept? So different animals can have different sources of food. Okay, so the food chain is always linear and it is always limited, whereas food web is complex. But while constructing ecological pyramid, we are always considering food chains, but we are not considering food webs. Okay, so a single organism, it can be under different trophic levels. Okay, but while considering in a food ecological pyramid, we are taking that animal in a single trophic level only. So this is correct statement. Same species that belong to 2 or more trophic levels are not taken into consideration. Not, yes, this is also correct. Next, saprophytes are not given any place in ecological pyramid. This is also correct. So all these statements are correct. Okay, so this question is about shapes of ecological pyramids. Consider the following statements regarding ecological pyramids. In aquatic ecosystem, the pyramid of energy is inverted. Okay, again here the pyramid of energy is always upright. Pyramid of energy can never be inverted because there is always loss of energy as we are going above the trophic levels, and the energy pyramid can never be inverted. Okay, so this is false statement. In a grassland ecosystem, the pyramid of numbers is upright. This is true. Okay, whereas in a parasitic food chain, the pyramid of biomass is inverted. Okay, this is false. In which food chain pyramid of biomass is inverted? Aquatic. Okay, so this is upright pyramid of number for grasslands. This is inverted pyramid of number for parasitic food chain. So for a parasitic food chain, the pyramid of numbers is inverted, whereas for aquatic ecosystems, the pyramid of biomass is inverted. Now consider the following statements regarding bioaccumulation and biomagnification. So I hope you know the difference, bioaccumulation and magnification. So if these toxins or whatever compounds, if they are keep on building up in a single organism, as the organism grows in its life, okay, the concentration of these toxins, they also keep on building up. This is called as bioaccumulation, whereas biomagnification means increasing in the concentration of toxins as the food is going to towards the higher trophic levels. That means from one trophic level to next trophic level, the percentage of toxins, they are also increasing in the body of organisms. That is biomagnification. Bioaccumulation refers to buildup of toxic chemicals in the body of a living organism. Correct. Biomagnification is when toxic chemical increases in amount each time it moves up a food chain. Okay, so as the trophic level increases, okay, the concentration of toxins increase. That is correct. Biomagnification occurs only in aquatic food chain. False. Okay, best example is what we are eating. Okay, all the vegetables, whatever we are eating, okay, they are coming from plants. Okay, the plants themselves, they are taking many heavy metals. Okay, as we are eating them upon our whole lifetime, if we are consuming those vegetables or all these material, etc., the toxins, they keep on building humans also. Okay, mercury poisoning in humans. Okay, this is mostly because of the food we eat, of the fish we eat, etc. Okay, so biomagnification occur in both terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems also. Which of the following is the correct order of biomagnification of DDT? What is DDT? It is a pesticide in aquatic food chain. So I told you that what happens in a biomagnification, as the trophic level is increasing, the concentration of the pollutant, it is also increasing. Okay, so here which unit is given here? ppm. What is parts per million? Parts per million. Parts per million. If there are million molecules of water, then 3 molecules of water are DDT. Okay, if it is 2 ppm, it means that, okay, if you are taking water and if you are dividing it into million particles, out of them 2 are this DDT or whatever toxin or chemical. Okay, so this is a kind of, it is proportionate only. Okay, this is not absolute terms, but it is a relative term. Okay, we are calculating ratio here. Okay, the ratio of pollutant. So while doing this question, okay, you have to keep 2 things in mind. Okay, first, that food chain sequence, the sequence of food chain should be correct. Okay. So see the third statement, water, zooplankton, small fish, large fish and fish eating birds. Okay. So in this the sequence of food chain is correct, and as there is the sequence of food chain, the concentration of this toxin, it is also increasing, 0.003, 0.04, 0.5, etc., etc. So you get the point, right? So two things you have to keep in mind, then you will get this answer. Okay, first the sequence of food chain should be correct, next the concentration should be keep on increasing. Okay, so next questions are about interactions. Okay, we have different types of biological interactions. What are they? Positive interactions, negative interactions, amensalism, commensalism, okay, mutualism, symbiosis, etc., etc. So a bird making nest on a tree is an example for what? So what happens when a bird puts a nest on a tree? Is the tree getting harmed? Is the tree getting benefited? No. Okay, so nothing is happening for the tree, zero for the tree, but what is happening for the bird? It is getting a positive. So this kind of interaction we call it as commensalism. Whereas what happens in amensalism? One organism is not affected where the other is negatively affected. Example for amensalism? Elephant walking in a forest. Okay, as the elephant goes, so many small insects, they are dead, but it is not harming the elephant or not benefiting the elephant. Again, this is important concept. So you know mutualism, right? What is mutualism? See, mutualism is a type of symbiosis where both the organisms are getting benefited. Okay, but again here we can classify this mutualism into different types. Okay, obligatory mutualism, facultative mutualism, trophic mutualism and defensive mutualism. Okay, so based upon the, see, in this mutualism both the organisms are getting benefited, but again there are minor variations. What is this type of relationship? Okay, based on that we have different types. Okay, what do you mean by obligatory mutualism? There is an obligation for each of them to help each other. Okay, even if one organism breaks this obligation, then it will be detrimental for the health of both the organisms. Okay, that means if both the organisms have to survive, then they should always be in a mutualistic relationship. Okay, if this relationship breaks, then what happens? Then both these organisms will die. Okay, so this is obligatory mutualism where there is a obligation for both the organisms to help each other. Okay, so lichens are best example. What is a lichen? Combination of algae and fungi. Okay, so fungi provides kind of shelter or structure for algae to live. Okay, algae does photosynthesis, whereas fungi provides other inorganic nutrients. Okay, so another best example is for mutual obligatory mutualism is corals and zooxanthellae. Okay, so corals, they provide shelter for zooxanthellae. So the zooxanthellae, it resides in the polyps of corals and it does photosynthesis. Okay, and it provides corals with carbohydrates, etc. Okay, whereas all the waste that is secreted by corals, it is a feedstock for zooxanthellae. Okay, so whenever the conditions become inhospitable for algae, it leaves, then what happens? Algae also dies and coral also dies, coral bleaching happens. Okay, so this is best example for obligatory mutualism. Next, what is facultative mutualism? There is no obligation, like plants and honeybees. Okay, so honeybee is not the only source for plants to pollination. What are the different sources of pollination for plants? Wind is the major source. If there are no bees available, plants can pollinate with wind, etc. Okay, or self-pollination. So there are different mechanisms for plants to survive. Again for honeybees, okay, if the plants and if the flowers are not there, honeybee can depend upon some trees, okay, some sap of the trees. Okay, so I mean this is not the only source for honeybees, plant nectar. Okay, but what happens? So they are mutually exclusive, but still they can come to a common ground and they can help each other. This is facultative mutualism. That means even if honeybees are not there, plants can survive. Even if plants are not there, honeybee can survive. But still they are coming to an understanding and they are helping each other. That is facultative mutualism. Next is trophic mutualism. So trophic mutualism where there is a kind of benefiting each other at different trophic levels. Okay, so mostly trophic mutualism is associated with microorganisms. Okay, for example, gut bacteria. Okay, all humans and animals, they have different kind of gut bacteria in their intestines and stomach, etc. Okay, so what this bacteria does is, so we are providing shelter to the gut bacteria, and the gut bacteria is it is breaking down different complex or molecules of our food. Okay, for example, in cows, okay, the cellulose, it is being broken down by different types of gut bacteria. So here from one trophic level to another trophic level, they are helping each other. This is trophic mutualism. Okay, so again, the another best example is Microreal fungi. Okay, I will explain about Microreal fungi in next question. So defensive mutualism, so corals and zooxanthellae are not examples for defensive mutualism. They are the best examples for obligatory mutualism. Okay, so what is the example for defensive mutualism? Plants and so there are some trees and some ants. Okay, acacia trees. Okay, acacia trees are found in savanna type of biomes. So in these biomes, the acacia tree, there are red ants which are present on the tree. So what they do is, so if any giraffe comes towards the acacia tree to eat leaves of acacia tree, the red ants will attack that giraffe. Okay, so the red ants are getting shelter from the acacia tree. So these red ants, they are providing defense against predators to this acacia tree. Okay, another example is hermit crab and sea anemone. Okay, hermit crab and sea anemone. So what happens here? Hermit crab, this sea anemone is attached to the hermit crab. Okay, so wherever this hermit crab is going, whatever food hermit crab eats, some small food crumbs, they will be eaten by sea anemone. But if any predator comes to attack hermit crab, then sea anemone has some stings, some poisonous stings. It will sting them and it will kill them. Okay, so it is kind of a defensive mutualism where one organism is protecting the other organism from predators. Okay, so see this statement. This is about Microreal fungi. So it is an example for trophic mutualism. So consider the following statements regarding Microreal. So what happens? It is a kind of association where fungi infect and colonize the root system of a host plant. Okay, this statement is correct statement. So what happens? So this is a plant and these are the roots of a plant. So this fungi, there is a certain type of fungi, it will colonize the root system of a host plant. Okay, so this is correct statement. But what happens with this colonization is different. Okay, there can be either positive outcome or negative outcome, but in this kind of Microreal association between plants and fungi, the outcome is always positive. So what happens? Yes, it is correct that fungi is infecting and colonizing the root system of a plant, but it is helping the plant in different ways. Okay, so let us see the different kind of benefits that the plant is getting from this type of fungi. Okay, first what happens is, see, plant system, they have whatever roots the plant system is having, they may not be sufficient to absorb water and nutrients. So this Microreal fungi, what happens is, see, fungal structure has a fungal as an organism, it has a very wide network. Okay, fungi is completely different from bacteria or algae. Okay, fungi can establish long networks over large kilometers, etc. Okay, so this fungal, it will build a nest around the root system in such a way that, okay, the surface volume of the roots will increase. Okay, so that the root system, they can capture more water and more nutrients. Okay, another example is this fungi, it will also provide a defensive mechanism to the plant against any pest attacks or any attacks of pathogen. It will provide certain kind of immunity to the plants. Okay, so these are certain benefits that the plant is getting from fungi. So this is correct statement, but the fungi deteriorate the plant health. No, it is helping in the healthy life of a plant. Okay, so this is false statement. The fungi make the host plant vulnerable to pathogen attack. No, this fungi is actually helping in providing defensive mechanism. It is helping in the immunity, raising the immunity of plant from any kind of fungal or any kind of pest attack. So only first statement is correct. Okay. అర్థమైందా అది కాన్సెప్ట్? fungi, Microreal fungi and plant root system. Should I repeat? Okay, see this question. This question is linked to that one. Microscopic, branched and thread-like structures which can grow and absorb nutrition from organic matter. They are found in, see these statements, they are microscopic, they are branched and thread-like structures. Okay, so this is the typical anatomy of a fungi. Okay, so fungi is different from other kind of organisms. Okay, whereas bacteria is a unicellular microorganism. Okay, it lives in colonies. Bacteria, it thrives, it grows in types of colonies. So, like this is like if there is any student of biotechnology, they will know this petri dish. What is petri dish? They do experiments. So in petri dish, if they put a small bacteria inside, by the time of next day, what happens? This bacteria reproduces. Okay, it grows into a small lump. Okay, it colonizes. This is called as bacteria colony. Whereas fungi is different. So fungi has this filament-like structures, thread-like structures. Okay, they are called as hyphae. Okay, so if there is fungi here, it will develop its network. So all the fungi, they will align themselves in the form of a network. Okay, so this network, what happens if this type of fungi is colonizing the roots of a plant? So we have two different types of plants here. Okay, this plant is infected with fungi. So what happens? This kind of hyphae structure, this thread-like structure, they are woven around the plant root system. Okay, then so what happens if this is the water source here? Okay, this fungi, it can extend its network to the water level. Okay, whereas this kind of plant where there is no fungal association, it cannot get this kind of help. Okay, so this is not getting water, whereas this is getting water. Okay, at the same time, this fungi, it is also helping fix some of the inorganic nutrients like phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen, etc., which are present in the soil. This fungi is absorbing all these things and it is giving to the plant. Okay, again another advantage is this fungi is also helping the plant from any kind of attack from the pest. Okay, it is increasing the immunity of the plants. Okay, so in that way, even though this fungi is hijacking the root system of a plant, it is actually beneficial for the plant in different mechanisms. Okay, so that is what given here. So water, it is getting water, it is getting nutrients. Okay, it is getting defense against any kind of attacks, pest attacks, etc. And also when this fungi grows in the soil, okay, it also binds the soil nutrients together. Okay, so it will also control soil erosion. Okay, so what happens? The grip of the root system to the ground network, it will increase. Okay, if there is fungi in the soil. Okay, so it will also help in controlling soil erosion. Okay, so we learnt about mutualism and different types of mutualism. What are they? Obligatory, facultative, defensive and trophic mutualism. Okay. Okay, and we know what is commensalism, where one organism is getting benefited and other is getting unaffected. Okay. Next, we have another type of interaction, it is amensalism. What happens in amensalism? One is negatively affected and another is not harmed. So there is again we have few types of amensalism where one organism, it will secrete some kind of chemical compounds to kill other organism. Okay, again it may want to kill or may not want to kill, but the other organism will get adversely affected. Okay, so two kinds of such mechanisms are allelopathy and antibiosis. That is actually correct. It is type of competition and it is also a type of amensalism. Yeah, both will be, but not in that sense. But in allelopathy, what happens? There are few resources. Okay, there are few resources. So there are different kinds of plants. So there is a competition for resources. So here competition means not it's a little bit tricky here. Competition means not in types of interaction. Okay, there is competition for resources. So what happens is one plant organism, it develops certain kind of some enzymes or chemicals that will kill other organisms within its surrounding area. So what happens? If there is no competition, then there is more nutrient availability for a single organism. Okay, so actually both of these together can be clubbed under amensalism. Okay, or they can be clubbed under competition also. Okay, it is not a hard and rule statement here. Okay, so there are two here, allelopathy and antibiosis. So allelopathy is only associated with plants and trees. So what happens in allelopathy? One tree from it through its root system secretes some chemicals or enzymes, okay, that prohibits the growth of other plants within the surrounding area, so that this main dominant tree, it will get nutrients from that region. This is called as allelopathy. Next we have antibiosis. Antibiosis is with respect to microorganisms. So in antibiosis, certain type of microorganism, it will develop antibacterial enzymes, okay, that will kill other type of microorganisms. Okay, this is antibiosis. So best example for antibiosis is penicillin and bacteria. Okay, so penicillin is secreted by which fungi? So penicillin is a type of enzyme that is secreted by fungi. So this penicillin is helping in the killing of bacteria. So this is antibiosis. Allelopathy is a type of competition between plants for resources where chemicals secreted by one plant inhibit the growth of another plant, correct? Antibiosis is a type of amensalism where the antibiotics produced by one microorganism kills the other, correct? Whereas the interaction between penicillin and bacteria is an example for antibiosis, not allelopathy. కిలో తప్పు ఉందా? కిలో ఎన్ని తప్పులు ఉన్నాయి ఒకసారి మళ్ళీ వాళ్ళకి ఇవ్వండి, మళ్ళీ రీచెక్ చేస్తారు. లేకపోతే దిస్ ఇస్ నాట్ అబౌట్ మార్క్స్ బట్ అబౌట్ కాన్సెప్ట్. ఓకే, సో క్వశ్చన్లో ఒక కాన్సెప్ట్ ఉంటుంది. సో ఇన్ క్వశ్చన్ వీఆర్ టెస్టింగ్ ఓన్లీ వన్ కాన్సెప్ట్, బట్ ఇన్ ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్ క్లాస్ we will deal about related concepts also. Okay, which of the following statements is correct regarding Gauss competitive exclusion principle? So what does this say? Let us go by statement. Species facing competition might evolve mechanisms that promote coexistence rather than exclusion. So for example, there is a small ecosystem where there are two predators, okay, lion and tiger. Okay, so these are two completely different species, lion and tiger. Okay, and there is competition for resources. There is only a few bunch of deer. So what they do over a period of time, these two species, will they coexist or will they separate? Coexist. So there is a small ecosystem and there are two predators, lion and a tiger. Okay, and there are some deers also, prey. Okay, so what happens? The resources are limited. There are only few population of deers, but there are two predators, lion and tiger. Okay, and these two predators are of different species. They are different species. So what happens? Because of this competition of resources, what will happen eventually over a period of time? Will lion and tiger, will they learn to coexist and share resources, or will one species dominate the other species and eliminate the other species? What happens? Yeah, so the dominant species, it will try to eliminate the other species from its own region. Okay, so now what happens? The tigers, they will move from this ecosystem to another ecosystem. So over a period of time, okay, the ecosystem develops in such a way that tigers live in one area and lions live in another area. So they will exclude themselves. So this is called as competition exclusion principle. So over a period of time, the two predators of different species, they will not coexist, and then they cannot share resources, but they will develop into exclusive ecosystems, okay, where they have their own share of resources. So this statement is wrong because this statement says that they will learn to coexist. This is false. Two closely related species competing for same resources cannot coexist if resources are again here see resources are limited. Okay, if there are unlimited resources, then there is no problem at all, but the resources are limited, so they cannot coexist, and they will learn to mutually be exclusive from each other. See, likewise we have some, so that is that Gauss's competition exclusive principle is an ecological rule. Okay, likewise we have different ecological rules. Okay, so these ecological rules are given by different biologists or different scientists based on their observations. Okay, so if you have observed, so dark skinned animals are living in this equator, light skinned animals are living in this Arctic region. So based on these observations, different scientists, they propose different kind of ecological rules. Okay, these all rules you must know. So even if you put this is very confusing, so even if you put this wrong, but at least try to know what rule, ecological rule is given by whom. So first one is Allen's rule. Allen's rule says that, okay, animals in colder climates, they have shorter ears, limbs, etc. compared to same species in warm climates. Why? To minimize the heat loss. So okay, if for example, if any kind of organism, if any bear, etc. If bear is living, say, we have different types of bears. We have polar bears and we have brown bears, grizzly bears, etc. Okay, so these animals which are living in cold areas, they are having shorter ears, shorter limbs, shorter legs, etc. So their anatomical features are little bit shorter because to minimize the heat loss. So elephants have a huge ears because they can send the excess heat outside through their ears. Okay, so this is some kind of adaptations of animals, okay, for different environmental systems. So this rule was discovered by Allen. So this is Allen's rule. Next we have Bergman's rule. Okay, so Bergman, this is regarding the bulkiness of an animal. Okay, B for bulkiness. This way you can remember. So animals in colder climates are bulkier compared to animals in the warmer climates. Okay, so why bulkiness? Fat under the skin, and also again surface area is about surface area to volume ratio. Okay, so this surface area to volume ratio, it will be minimum if the animals are bulkier. Okay, what do you mean by bulkiness? Bulkiness means if you are getting bulky, we are going round and round. So this is bulkiness. So all the animals in Arctic regions, they are getting bulky and bulky, so that their surface area to volume ratio is minimized again to reduce the heat loss. Next about Golger's rule. So Golger's rule, he says that animals are dark skinned in humid areas and light skinned in these colder areas because of UV radiation, mostly because of UV radiation. Next, Wilson's rule, it says that, okay, animals in Arctic regions, they have a longer hair, thick skin, etc. because the longer hair and the longer fur, thick skin, it will help them insulate the excessive coldness. Okay, whereas animals in these equatorial regions, they have a thinner skin. Okay, they do not have much hair, etc. See, again these rules, they are not hard and fast rules. Okay, they are just observations. Okay, for every rule there can be exceptions. Okay, for example, this Wilson's rule says that animals in tropical regions, they have less hair and less thin skin. Okay, but this can be false also. In equatorial regions, the animals can develop more fur because here their developing of fur is with respect to UV radiation, and also to protect from the excessive heat, and also to protect from the UV radiation also. Okay, so these are general observations only, they are not hard and fast rules, and there can be exceptions also. So this again they can be confusing, but develop some trick where you can remember what is what. So next questions are regarding biogeochemical cycles. So we have two types of chemicals, biogeochemical cycles. They are gaseous cycle and sedimentary cycle. Okay, and they are categorized under what basis? On the basis of, so we have gaseous cycle and we have sedimentary cycles. On the basis of reservoir. What is reservoir? The medium Okay, the greater medium through which this process is going on, cycling. Okay, so examples for gaseous cycles are oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen, etc. For sedimentary cycles we have phosphorus, sulfur, sodium, etc. These are all sedimentary cycles. So we know most about gaseous cycles. Okay, now let us see about this sedimentary cycle. So sedimentary cycles are considered imperfect because the replacement period of nutrients is slow. What do you mean by replacement period? The rate at which the nutrients are getting replenished. Okay, for example, water cycle the water is getting evaporated, it is condensation, again precipitation. Okay, the replacement rate is very fast, whereas in sedimentary cycles the replacement rate is very slow. For example, if from any mountain region, from any mine, the phosphorus or potassium is getting extracted, okay, for that nutrient to get replaced, it will take thousands or millions of years. Okay, because sedimentary cycle is a slow process, the nutrients they cannot be replenished at a faster rate. Okay, again for that phosphorus to get replenished, what should happen? Plate tectonics, volcanism, again it should go through a lot of process. Okay, so because their replacement rate is slow, they are called as imperfect. Sedimentary cycles do not have atmospheric component, that is false, because the major component is terrestrial or aquatic, but they might also have atmospheric component. Example, sulfur. Okay, sulfur cycle. Okay, we have sulfur dioxide, sulfur oxides emitting from various sources. Okay, we have sulfuric acid, acid rains, etc. So there is atmospheric component that might be less, but it is wrong to say that they do not have atmospheric component. Okay, whereas can you give example where there is no atmospheric component for any sedimentary cycle? Yeah, phosphorus, potassium, etc. They do not have atmospheric component. Next, this is regarding phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus is a limiting nutrient for plants and animals. What do you mean by limiting nutrient? Availability. So the growth of an animal or plant depends upon the availability of that nutrient. If it is not available, then the growth can be less. If it is available greatly, then the growth can be great. Okay, so we have this DNA. Okay, DNA is made of different compounds. What elements? Nitrogen base, we have phosphorus base. Okay, so this phosphorus, it is a building block of DNA. So it is a limiting nutrient, correct? Organic phosphorus is insoluble and is not readily available for plants to uptake. Okay, this is correct. Again, for any mineral in this nutrient cycle, we have organic component and inorganic component. Even for nitrogen, in nitrogen cycle. Okay, so most of the nitrogen which is available, they cannot be taken by plants directly. They have to be, there are different processes, nitrification, ammonification, denitrification, etc. So they should be converted to forms that should be, that can be taken by the plant readily. Okay, so likewise the organic phosphorus is insoluble and it cannot be taken by the plants directly. Okay, so bacteria has to act on this organic phosphorus and it has to convert this organic phosphorus to inorganic phosphorus. Only then plants can absorb this phosphorus from the soil. Okay, so there is whole process. So this is correct statement. Again, this is the follow-up statement. So bacteria aids in the mineralization of organic phosphorus to inorganic phosphorus. So this inorganic phosphorus will be taken by the plants. Okay, so all these statements are correct. This is phosphorus cycle. Okay, about different types of nutrients. So we have different nutrient intake for plants. They can be classified under different categories: major nutrients, primary nutrients, secondary and micronutrients. Okay, so these are also called as macro. Major nutrients, macronutrients and micronutrients. So what are major nutrients? So major nutrients are those which there is no need for us to give to the plant specifically. They are majorly available in the atmosphere. What are they? nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, etc., they are readily available in the atmosphere. Okay, they are major nutrients which are required for plant growth. Without them, plant cannot grow. But again, we need not deliver to plants specifically. Okay, they are already available in the atmosphere. They are major nutrients. Okay, what are primary nutrients? Okay, these are growth limiting nutrients, NPK. Okay, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Okay, they have to be given to the plants. They are primary nutrients, or they are also called as primary macronutrients. Okay, next we have secondary nutrients. So secondary nutrients are these: calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. So calcium, magnesium, sulfur, they are secondary nutrients. Whereas we have micronutrients also. Okay, they are required at a smaller level for plants. Okay, these all are micronutrients: iron, manganese, zinc, okay, copper, boron, nickel, etc. These all are micronutrients. Okay, you can note this down. Okay, classic question anytime they can ask, even for any state PCS exams also. So only one pair is correct, that is this one, micronutrients, copper, boron, and nickel. Okay, but all these are micronutrients only. So secondary nutrients are calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. Okay, primary nutrients are NPK, whereas major nutrients are carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. Not nitrogen, carbon. See, again, even though nitrogen is available in the atmosphere, it cannot be taken by the plants directly. Okay, so in nitrogen cycle, it has to be nitrified. Okay, that it has to be converted to ammonia and nitrates. Only then they can be absorbed by the plant. So these are all different nutrients required for plants. So next questions are regarding succession, ecological succession. So I hope you know the basics regarding ecological succession. So we have two types of succession: primary succession and secondary succession. So what happens in a primary succession? There is a bare land, okay, without any soil or without anything. So if any organism which rises from that, then primary succession is happening. What is secondary succession? For example, a well established plant and animal community, it has been devastated because of some reasons, maybe forest fire, flooding, earthquake, etc. Okay, then again from this devastated ecosystem, secondary organisms they are rising, then it is called as, this is secondary succession. Okay, now again, what is pioneer species? The first organisms to colonize any environment, they are called as primary species. Okay, so primary species, so this primary species or pioneer species. So pioneer species, they can colonize in primary succession or secondary succession, or both. So are you understanding? So in only primary succession do we call them as pioneer species. For example, a well established plant and animal community has grown, and because of flood or forest fire, the whole region has been collapsed. Okay, now within these remnants, new plants are emerging. Can they be called as pioneer species? So this is primary succession. This is bare rock. Okay, there is no nutrients, no soil available. Okay, in this region lichens are growing, so they are called as pioneer species. Okay, now this whole ecosystem has developed. Now because of some flood or forest fire, it has been destroyed. Now again some new plants are coming, so they can also be called as pioneer species. So pioneer species are not limited to primary succession. So even in secondary succession, pioneer species can grow. Okay, that you have to understand. So primary succession always begins with photosynthetic organisms as pioneer species. Is it true? Yes, because photosynthesis, it is the basis for biomass production. Okay, so always primary succession begins with photosynthetic organisms. Okay, because they are the primary producers. This is correct. Pioneer species are always simple species that can tolerate harsh environment, because these pioneer species, they are emerging from harsh environment conditions. Okay, so they are correct. Grasses, fireweed, willow, etc. are example of pioneer species. Okay, so here when they are asking about examples of pioneer species, not just about primary succession, they can be about secondary succession also. If it is example of primary succession, what is the best example? Lichens. Okay, lichens and grasses, they are pioneer species. Okay. So again, not just these lichens, but grasses, fireweed, willows. Okay, these are some kind of primary grasses and small plants. Okay, they are also examples for pioneer species. So all these statements are correct. Which of the following statements are correct regarding climax community? So what happens in a climax community? So as you are seeing here, as you know, the ecosystem is going through different phases from pioneer species to climax community. We can say that in no two phases, okay, the type of the combination of plants and animals are same. Okay, so if you see here, there are small grasses. Okay, here small weeds are growing. Here different plants have come up, different trees have come up. But if you see in the climax community, okay, so the same type of plants are not present here, because what is happening? Succession is taking place where certain combination of plants and animals, they are being replaced by the next level of plants and animals. Okay, so as this succession is taking place, things are getting complex. Okay, so simpler animals and organisms, they are evolving into complex animals and organisms. Okay, the food webs are increasing in large size. Okay, so here the food chains are smaller, but here, okay, the food webs are increasing, the biodiversity is increasing. At the same time, few plants, they are getting dominant. Okay, if you see here, major trees, these kind of trees can be visible. Okay, so even though biodiversity is increasing, at the same time, few dominant species are getting established in that region. Okay, for example, if it is equatorial forest, okay, they have the largest biodiversity. Again, at the same time, the major trees which are found are ebony, mahogany, rosewood, etc. These kind of trees. Okay, so that is what you should know here. So in the climax community, the productivity of community continues to increase. Is this correct statement? After that, it will become stagnant. So see here. So here the productivity is least. What do you mean by productivity of an ecosystem? What do you mean by productivity of an ecosystem? Energy, yeah? Sir, ecosystem productivity and enti? Biomass. What is biomass? Organic matter, dry organic matter. Okay, if you are taking all the organic matter and if you are drying it out without any water, then what happens? The mass which is remaining, that is called as biomass. So in an ecological succession, the production of biomass keeps on increasing, but it will become stagnant at this point, because now the movie has reached the climax. Okay, so what happens in a climax is the community becomes stable. What do you mean by stable ecosystem? In a stable ecosystem, the productivity will not change. There is no variation in productivity over the years. Okay, so this year how much biomass is getting produced, next year also the same amount of biomass will get produced. Okay, so the ecosystem is in a state of balance. Okay, it will not keep on increasing. Okay, a point will reach, it is called as climax, where the productivity of the ecosystem will get stable. Okay, that is called as climax community or a stable ecosystem. So the productivity of community continues to increase. This is false statement. Okay, the productivity will come to a halt in climax community. It will not keep on increasing forever. So this is false statement. A small number of prominent species dominate the community. This is correct. Okay. The diversity of organisms is decreased. This is false, because okay, at that point in climax community, the diversity is the maximum. So is this clear? What is climax community? Okay, even though diversity is maximum, few prominent species, they will dominate the whole region. Okay, and the ecosystem will become stable. That means that there is least variation in biomass production or productivity. Okay, now again see this question. Which of the following act as pioneer species but during primary succession? Okay, now here they are asking about pioneer species but specifically in primary succession. Okay, so primary succession means suddenly a new lake has developed. Okay, so all of a sudden in this new lake, all organisms cannot enter. So primarily what happens? Initially phytoplankton, they are the primary producers, they will come. So after phytoplankton to eat them, zooplankton, then fishes, then all different types of plants, weeds, etc. they will come. Okay, so only small phytoplankton, this is correct because the question they are asking about primary succession. Okay, so always primary succession begins with phytoplankton, whereas in terrestrial it begins with lichens. Okay. Again we have two types of successions here, autogenic succession and allogenic. Okay, autogenic means it is there in the name only, auto, self-driven. Okay, if the succession is driven by biotic factors, then it is called as autogenic. Biotic means plant and animal organisms. Okay, if these organisms they are bringing their succession by themselves, then it is called as autogenic. Allogenic means external forces. Okay, flood, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, forest fires, these are external forces, then it is called as allogenic succession. Okay, now what is the example for autogenic succession? No, example for autogenic succession, give me, like for example for allogenic succession, example is forest fire. Okay, some forest fire has happened and all of the plant and animal community has vanished in an area. This is an allogenic succession. It is with respect to abiotic factors, fire or flood because of water, etc. Autogenic succession example? అవన్నీ allogenic అండి, external forces. Autogenic అంటే ఏంటి? Succession driven by the plant and animal communities themselves through their own interactions. Invasive species can be example. ఇంకా predation, competition for resources, etc. For example, if in an area the population of predators will increase, then what will happen? Okay, region లో predators పెరిగిపోయారు అనుకోండి, ఏమవుతుంది? Prey యొక్క population తగ్గిపోతుంది. Okay, for example, in an area the population of deers or cattle has increased, then what will happen? Overgrazing అంటారు కదా, overgrazing. It is a major threat for ecosystem because of overgrazing, all the greenery of the land area is diminished, land will become unstable, soil erosion takes place and the whole region will become barren. Okay, so if in an area the cattle population increases, what happens? All the primary producers, plant population, they will be completely wiped away. Okay, so this is an example for which succession? Autogenic or allogenic? Autogenic. Okay, so likewise all these interactions, they are example for autogenic succession. So autogenic is driven by abiotic factors, correct or wrong? False, because autogenic is self-driven, driven by biotic factors. So this is false statement. Next, see next statement. Primary succession always begins with allogenic succession. What is primary succession? What is relationship between primary succession and allogenic succession? Physical factors like earthquake, for example volcanism. Volcanism వచ్చింది, ఏమైంది? Because of the lava a new island has formed in an ocean. Okay, or because of this అర్థమైందా? For example in an ocean, because of volcanic activity a new island has formed. Now this is completely new land, barren land. Okay, now from this new land what can happen? Primary succession will happen, secondary succession రాదు కదా. Now see, autogenic succession is related to secondary succession. So autogenic means this plant and animal communities, overgrazing. So because of overgrazing land has become barren. సో అప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది? ల్యాండ్ బ్యారన్ అయిపోతే ఒక క్యాటిల్ బతకగలవా? క్యాటిల్ చనిపోతాయి. దెన్ దెర్ ఈస్ స్పేస్ ఫర్ ప్లాంట్స్ టు గ్రో. అగైన్ ఓవర్ ఎ పీరియడ్ ఆఫ్ టైమ్ the secondary community, secondary section will happen. So the barren land again new grasses will come up and their population will increase. Okay, so this is secondary succession. What is ecotone? Ecotone is just a transition area. అక్కడ సక్సెషన్ అని ఏం చెప్పట్లేదు కదా. సక్సెషన్ అంటే ఏంటి? there is a change in the species, change in the combination of plant and animal species inhabiting in an area. So again see this next question. This is about homeostasis. Okay, what is homeostasis? Maintaining equilibrium. Okay, so homeostasis can be at different levels. At an organismic level, it is about maintaining equal body conditions. Okay, at ecosystem level, it means maintaining balance, maintaining equal level of productivity. Okay, so this is about the regulating factor of ecosystem. So here let us see the first example. Organisms that can tolerate wide temperature range are called as eurythermal. This is correct. Okay, if an organism cannot tolerate wide temperature range, then they are called as stenothermal. S-T-E-N-O, stenothermal. Okay, now see the next statement. Conformation is a process where organisms regulate their own internal temperature. This is false. That what is the process called? It is regulation. Okay, so here you have to know the difference between conformation and regulation. So majorly plant organisms like humans, okay, or mammals and birds, etc., they are called as regulators because they can regulate their own body temperature. Okay, that means we are not dependent upon external conditions for regulating our own body temperature. Okay, AC అనుకోండి ఏమవుతుంది, we feel cool and our body starts to shiver. Okay, so in order to produce heat, our body has to perform more metabolism. మీకు అర్థమైందా, చల్లగా ఉంది కాబట్టి to produce heat our body should do more metabolic activity, muscles will shiver, muscles will contract. Okay, so this is a whole regulation process happening within our body itself. So we are regulators, we can regulate our internal body temperature, okay, irrespective of the outside conditions. So conformers. So conformers are those organisms, they cannot regulate their own internal body temperature, hence they are dependent on their external environment for their body temperature. For example, conformers, for a lizard can tolerate certain type of temperature only. If the temperature is increasing in a desert, for example, the temperatures in daytime, they are going increasing at a faster rate. So this lizard or a snake, it cannot tolerate that extreme temperature. So what will it do? It will adapt, or it will simply move to some other place. Okay, what will it do? That snake, it will bury itself deep in the sand. It will go inside the burrows or horrors. Okay, or fish. So what happens if, for example, if during daytime the temperature is increasing, water is increasing, what will it do? It will go deeper so that the water temperature can be maintained. Okay, or another example, sometimes the species, they may go into hibernation or the diapause mode, okay, where they will completely stop their metabolism. Okay, so these are called as conformers. So conformers are those species, they cannot regulate their own temperature, but they will do different kinds of other activities. Okay, so that means they will move to some other place. Okay, they will adapt. Okay, and they may hibernate. So they will do these other types of process to regulate their own body temperature. Okay, they are called as conformers. Next, ectotherms. So this is correct or wrong? Wrong statement. Ectotherms or cold-blooded animals cannot regulate their own internal temperature. Okay, so ectotherms or cold-blooded animals or conformers, they are all same. Okay, so they cannot regulate their own body temperature. A question adigaru kada, all warm-blooded animals, they are eurythermal or not. Okay, so again you have to differentiate. Eurythermal means who can tolerate wide range. Warm-blooded means no, that's what I am saying. Actually, again there are exceptions that are same. Not all warm-blooded animals are eurythermal. Okay, so eurythermal is about the wide range. Okay, if we can tolerate certain wide range, then cold to extreme hot to extreme cold, if any organism can tolerate such extremities of condition, then it can be called as eurythermal. Okay, so eurythermal and stenothermal, it is about the temperature range. Okay, but if any question comes, okay, are all eurythermal that means warm blooded animals are completely eurythermal, okay, then it can be a false statement, because not all warm blooded animals can tolerate extreme ranges. Okay, so humans, we cannot tolerate extreme ranges. If we go beyond some extent, we may freeze to death. Okay, like there can be exceptions, so this cannot be a generalizing statement. Okay, that is what I want to say. So we have two types of organisms, warm blooded and cold blooded. So warm blooded means nothing but they can regulate their own body temperature, that means they are regulators, whereas they are conformers. Okay, so since their blood is warm, they can regulate their own body temperature. That means all this process that is happening internally within their own body, hence they are called as endotherms. Okay, that means for their heat they are dependent upon their own internal body regulations. Okay, that means the heat is getting generated from their own body, inside the body, hence they are called as endotherms. Whereas these cold blooded animals or conformers, they are called as ectotherms, because their internal body cannot generate heat, so they are dependent upon external conditions for heat. They are called as ectotherms. Okay, so this you should remember. Warm blooded are same as regulators, they are same as endotherms. Okay, so again mostly warm blooded animals are eurythermal. Okay, mostly all warm blood, not all, but most of the warm blooded animals are eurythermal. Okay, there is a overlapping range. Okay, but again we cannot say that all warm blooded animals are eurythermal. There is a difference, right? We have certain kind of that can be eurythermal. Some cold blooded animals can also be eurythermal. Okay, because they are practicing certain kind of adaptations. For example, we have tardigrades. Okay, tardigrade is such a microscopic organism. It can tolerate even in open space. It can tolerate even UV radiation. Okay, so it does not have that internal body metabolism and etc. It is an cold-blooded animal, cold-blooded organism, but still it can tolerate extreme ranges. Okay, so that you cannot make a strict rule there. Okay, but mostly warm-blooded animals can tolerate wide ranges. Okay, but not all warm-blooded animals can tolerate wide range. Okay. So the only thing you have to remember is these three. Warm-blooded means regulator, regulator means endotherm. Okay, whereas eury means wide range, steno means small range. So all these things which I discussed, they are given here. You can go through this later for clarification. This is the adaptation and these are the traits of an organism. So hibernation, what is hibernation? Hibernation means winter sleep. Okay, you must have read in childhood. Hibernation means winter sleep. To escape the severe winter conditions, cold conditions, the animal will reduce its metabolism. It is winter sleep. So reduced metabolism to survive severe winters or cold conditions. That is correct. Next, the aestivation means opposite. Okay, so reduced metabolism to survive high heat or water loss. Lack of this is correct. Diapause. Diapause means, okay, so in both of these, hibernation and aestivation, it is reduced metabolism. Whereas in diapause, there is suspension of metabolism. It means that the growth, so for example, there are certain animals which are laying their eggs in winter season. Okay, but those eggs, they will not grow for months together. Only when conditions become normal, the eggs will start to grow. Okay, till that time, the eggs are in a suspended animation state. They are not either, they are not either dead or alive. Their growth is completely stopped. Okay, that is diapause. Okay, you must have seen in movies also what cryosleep. Recently in many science fiction movies, there is a new concept called cryosleep. Okay, that means since we humans, our lifespan is limited, is only 100 years. But in order to travel greater distances, we may have to live for thousands of years. So humans are put in a cryosleep mode. That means that we will not grow or will not die, but we are just pausing our life at that point. Okay, again after some time when we want, we can resume it again. Okay, so diapause means suspension of growth and metabolism under stressful conditions. So migration means moving to warmer place in search of food. This is correct. Now coming to these different concepts. Okay, ecotone, ecoline, ecofin or ecotypes. I have told this already in class. So what is ecotone? Transition area between two biomes is called as ecotone. Ecoline means gradual change in any physical parameter. Okay, for example, salinity. Okay, for example, in a water body, the salinity is keep on increasing from shore to the inland. Okay. So what happens at different salinity levels, different kind of organisms can be found. This is ecoline. Okay, or for example, again temperature ranges from one region to another region. The temperature conditions are varying. Okay, with varying temperature conditions, different kind of organisms and plants community they can set up. Okay, this is called as ecoline. So gradual change or transition in any physical parameter, that is called as ecoline. Whereas ecotone means transition between two biomes. For example, you are entering from forest biome to desert biome. So between these two biomes we have grassland biome. Okay, that is ecotone. Ecofin, again these two are confusing again. Ecofin and ecotype. So ecofin means this morphological changes to a new environment. Okay, for example, any plant or animal, any plant species, if you are taking from tropical areas to temperate areas, okay, to survive those cold conditions, the plant will develop instantaneous adaptations. Okay, then it is called as ecofin. But if those adaptations become permanent over a period of time, then they are called as ecotype. Ecotype means permanent changes. Okay, so the structural changes, they will go to the genetic level and these changes become permanent, then this is called as ecotype. Okay, ecofin means temporary or the temporary changes. So only ecotone and ecoline is correct, these two are interchanged. Now coming to ecological amplitude. Okay, so different animals and plants, they have different tolerance limits. Okay, that range. So what is the range in anywhere? What do you mean by range? Maximum and minimum. Okay, range of temperature or any parameter of moisture or water, etc. So what is amplitude? So in waves also we are studying about amplitude. Okay, so this is the wave, this is amplitude. This is wave height, from top to bottom it is called as wave height, whereas half of wave height is amplitude. Okay, so ecological amplitude means the range of conditions or the range of tolerance of a species to changing environmental conditions. For example, see this graph, what is happening here. So this is a mountain slope, this is a slope of a mountain. So what happens as you are going towards higher altitudes, what will happen? Temperature will increase or decrease? Temperature will decrease. Okay, so at different temperature levels, okay, different kind of plant species, okay, they are able to survive. For example, if this is 4 degrees and this is 3 degrees Celsius. Okay, so this plant species, it can thrive most in this kind of range. Okay, whereas here again this population will decrease, again at this temperature its population will decrease. So this is called as range. So the tolerance range of different, okay, likewise not just plants but animals will also have their own tolerance range for different parameters. Okay, so this range of tolerance, if you see this statement here again, here the question is not just about the tolerance but also they are asking about demands. What do you mean by demands? So the range of demands and consequent range of tolerance. So what do you mean by demands here? So demands here implies the different environmental or climatic parameters that an organism need. Okay, what can be the different parameters like temperature, moisture, okay, or for a plant it can be the soil, okay, soil nutrients, the pH level of the soil, okay, or like all these different demands. So these are different needs that a plant require or animal require. So these are demands. So ecological amplitude means, okay, the different the range of demands that an animal need, and also the range of tolerance, okay, how much it can tolerate in a changing environmental conditions. So this whole comprises ecological amplitude. Okay, so this question is actually asked in some other UPSC exam, not civil services but some other engineering exam. They have asked this question. Okay, which one of the following animals can tolerate extreme dry conditions? So we can group plants and animals based on their tolerance range into different categories. So plant groups, they always end with the word phytes. Okay, animals, they will end with coals. Okay, so hydrophyte means plants, phyte means plant, hydro means plants that live in water, hygro means plants that need more moisture, okay, fan, etc. Meso means, meso means what? No, meso means moderate conditions, okay, moderate water availability. So those plants that need moderate water availability, they are mesophytes. Zero means dry conditions, okay, those plants that can tolerate extreme dry conditions, they are xerophytes. Halo means salinity, the plants which can tolerate salinity, okay. So likewise, based on their physiological condition, we can categorize plants. So all the plants end with phyte for you to recognize. Whereas animals, hydrocoal means those animals which are living in water. Mesocoal means those animals which need low medium amounts of water, okay, amphibians can come here. Next, xerocoal means those animals that can tolerate extreme dry conditions or zero lack of water, etc. So here they are asking about animal, okay, that can tolerate extreme dry condition means, okay, zero moisture, that means zero coal. Next, see the statement. Species diversity decreases from equator towards the poles. Correct or wrong? Correct. Diversity of organisms, it decreases from equator towards the poles. What is the reason? Seasonal variations increase towards the poles, which does not provide much time for species diversification. That means for a species to diversify, there should be constant environmental conditions. But what is happening, as we are going towards poles, okay, the seasonal variation, they are getting extreme. Okay, as we are going towards poles, what happens? There is 6 months of daytime and 6 months of night time. Okay, so these conditions are not good for species to diversify. They need a constant environmental conditions. Whereas in tropics, okay, the temperature range is very limited. Okay, that means almost there are throughout the year in the equator, the temperature and precipitation levels are same. Okay, both of these are correct statements. What is tropics? 23.5 north to 23.5 degree south. Equator is just the line. I am giving an example. So along the equator, the day and nights are equal along the equator. As we are moving from equator towards the poles, the day length and night length, it will keep on varying, and it will reach to the point where it is 6 months of night and 6 months of daytime in the North Pole and South Pole. Okay. Whereas in the equator, the day and night are always 12 hours and 12 hours. That's what I am saying. So the species diversity, so this variation range is least in the tropics. Okay. So and because of high temperature conditions and high precipitation, so these are the optimal conditions for diversity and species diversity also. Now consider the following statements regarding ecological stability. I already told you what is stability. Stability means there should be least variation in productivity. Productivity means biomass generation. Okay. So variation in community biomass decrease with decreasing species richness. What do you mean by this statement? Species richness means biodiversity. So it is saying that if biodiversity is decreasing, then what will happen? Biomass will, the variation in biomass will decrease. Ante వేరియేషన్ ఇన్ బయోమాస్ డిక్రీజ్ అంటే ఏంటి? ద ఎకోసిస్టమ్ ఈస్ స్టేబుల్. ఓకే, దట్ మీన్స్ సేయింగ్ ఇఫ్ బయోడైవర్సిటీ is decreasing, then the stability of ecosystem will increase. Is this correct statement? మీకు అర్థమైందా మొత్తం? We have to decode this statement. Very much twisted. So decreasing species richness. So decreasing species richness means the biodiversity of an area is decreasing. Okay, so if biodiversity of an area is decreasing, what will happen? So you have to understand the link between biodiversity and productivity. So generally it is observed that wherever there is greater biodiversity, then that means the productivity of that ecosystem will be greater. If the productivity of ecosystem is greater, the variation will be lower. Okay, అర్థమైందా రిలేషన్? అర్థం కాలే? So you have to understand different concepts here, stability of, starting from stability of an ecosystem. So what do you mean by stability of an ecosystem? In a stable ecosystem, productivity will remain stagnant. Okay, productivity will remain stagnant. It will not change, or it will not increase, or it will not decrease. Okay, every year the productivity will remain same, more or less same. Okay, so that means stability. For example, ఈ year తక్కువ for example in India, in which regions, so do you know the relationship between rainfall variability and rainfall distribution in India? In Indian NCERT book, okay, rainfall variability map is given. Rainfall distribution map is also given. Okay, you will see that in areas where the rainfall is greater, the rainfall variability is lower, but in arid regions, in Rajasthan regions etc., where rainfall is lower, the variability is greater. Okay, so which is stable here? The areas where rainfall is greater, they are stable. Okay, they are having more or less same rainfall, but all these drier areas, they are having greater variation. 1 year వర్షం పడుతుంది, నెక్స్ట్ ఇయర్ పడదు, ఒకసారి గట్టి పడిపోతుంది, తక్కువ పడుతుంది, చెప్పలేమంటుంది. దిస్ వేరియేషన్. ఓకే, సో సేమ్ థింగ్ హియర్ ఆల్సో. దిస్ క్వశ్చన్ ఇస్ ఇన్ యువర్ నెక్స్ట్ ఎగ్జామ్. ఒకటి చెప్పేసాను క్వశ్చన్ ఇప్పుడు. సో ఇన్ ఏ స్టేబుల్ కమ్యూనిటీ ఆర్ ఇన్ ఏ స్టేబుల్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్, ద ప్రొడక్టివిటీ విల్ రిమైన్ సేమ్. Okay, but in this they are saying that, so again you have to understand the link between stability and biodiversity. Okay, so it is generally observed that wherever there is greater biodiversity, those ecosystems are stable. Okay, so if biodiversity in any area is greater, that means the stability, there is a stability in that ecosystem. Okay, so this statement is contrary to that. It says that ఏ రీజియన్స్లో అయితే బయోడైవర్సిటీ తక్కువ ఉందో ఆ రీజియన్లో వేరియేషన్ అన్ని తక్కువ ఉంటుంది అంటుంది. ఓకే, దట్ ఈస్ ఫాల్స్, బికాస్ వేరియేషన్ విల్ బి గ్రేటర్ ఇన్ దోస్ రీజియన్స్. ఓకే, సో దిస్ ఈస్ ఫాల్స్ స్టేట్మెంట్. ఇన్వేసివ్ స్పీసీస్ ఆర్ లెస్ లైక్లీ టు ఎస్టాబ్లిష్ ఇన్ డైవర్స్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్. ఇస్ దిస్ కరెక్ట్? Invasive species are less likely to establish in diverse ecosystems. So in an area there is greater biodiversity. అప్పుడు ఇన్వేసివ్ స్పీసీ ఒకళ్ళు వచ్చింది అనుకోండి, వచ్చినా కానీ అది బతకడానికే దానికి బికాజ్ ఆల్రెడీ ఇన్ దిస్ డైవర్స్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్స్, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇన్ ఈక్వల్ రీజన్స్ దేర్ ఇస్ సో మచ్ ఆఫ్ కాంపిటీషన్ అండ్ ఆల్మోస్ట్ ఆల్ ద స్పీసీస్, ప్లాంట్స్ అండ్ యానిమల్ స్పీసీస్ ఆర్ స్టేబుల్, వెరీ మచ్ స్టేబుల్. ఓకే, there is so much of competition for themselves only, and the cycle is well established. Okay, even if that invasive species will come, okay, there is little chance for that to survival. Forget about invading the other regions. Adhavenda? So this can happen only with human intervention. With human intervention, when colonizers came, what they did, they changed the landscape of equatorial forests. Okay, they have cut these forests and they have turned into plantations. Okay, when plantations are what? Monocultures. Okay, when this diversity is reducing to a monoculture, then what can happen? Invasive species can enter now. There is less competition. Okay, so wherever there is less competition, invasive species they can enter and they can invade the whole area. At the same time, if there is greater biodiversity in an area, then there is less scope for invasive species to establish. Okay, so this is correct statement. Simple communities with less species appear to be less stable. This is correct. Okay, if in a region the species are less and if the communities are simpler, then they are less stable. That means their productivity is likely to vary. Okay, so these two statements are correct, 2 and 3. Which of the following is the most diverse group of organisms on the earth? Insects. Okay, if you can see here, among all the invertebrates, insects, they are the most diverse. And among vertebrates, fishes are most diverse, and in plants, fungi and angiosperms. What are angiosperms? Flowering plants. Next, which of the following is not a feature of human modified ecosystem? So I just gave you an example, human modified ecosystem, where humans, we are intervening and we are changing the landscapes. So what can be observed? Highly complex. Is this are human landscapes highly complex? Are there the intricate food chains and food webs? No. Whenever we humans are coming, what is happening? There is destruction of habitat. If there is destruction of habitat, the food chains are getting simpler. Okay, they are not complex. So outrightly you can eliminate this answer. Low species diversity, correct. Small food chains, correct. Highly unstable, correct. So this is about, again this question is about productivity. Productivity lo ennaithe concepts unnayo anta question lo vachesindi. Again maybe difficult for you, but again if you can decode it is easy. See, we have primary productivity and secondary productivity. So what is primary productivity? మీకు ప్రొడక్టివిటీ అర్థమైంది కదా ఇంతవరకు? ప్రొడక్టివిటీ అంటే అమౌంట్ ఆఫ్ బయోమాస్ విచ్ ఇస్ జనరేటెడ్. కెన్ ఓన్లీ ప్లాంట్స్ జనరేట్ బయోమాస్? యానిమల్స్, హ్యూమన్స్, వీఆర్ బయోమాస్. మన నుంచి వాటర్ తీసేస్తే వీఆర్ నథింగ్ బట్ బయోమాస్. ఓకే, సో ద బయోమాస్ విచ్ ఈస్ జనరేటెడ్ బై photosynthetic organisms, that is called as primary productivity. Secondary productivity means by consumers. Okay, so again primary productivity is divided into two types. What are they? Gross and net. Gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. Gross ante enti? Total amount of energy or biomass that is created by photosynthetic organisms, that is gross primary productivity. Net ante enti? Gross lonchi edo konta తీసేస్తే net untadi. What are we? Respiration. Okay, so these plants, for them to survive, they are also respiring, they are also carrying some biological functions, so some of the energy is consumed. So gross minus respiration is equal to net primary productivity. ఇంతవరకు అర్థమైందా? So primary productivity means the biomass generated by plants. Gross ante total biomass generated. Out of this total we have to eliminate respiration, energy lost during respiration or some biological activities, then it is net. Okay, so ippudu we are eating some plants. Now if you are eating some plants, example, manaki gross availability untunda, net availability untunda? Net availability untundi, because this is what is available for us to consume, because out of the total gross some is lost as energy, so net primary productivity is available for to consume anamata. Okay, now what is secondary productivity means? After consuming that, whatever material we are building, that is secondary productivity. Now see the statement, primary productivity means biomass produced by plants over a period of time. This is correct statement. Next, gross primary productivity, rate of production of organic matter during photosynthesis. This is correct. Again net means, see this is false again here, net productivity means this one, biomass available for consumption for heterotrophs. That means we are talking about this one. See, total primary productivity is not available for heterotrophs. Out of this total we have to eliminate the respiration losses, then whatever is available, then it is net primary productivity, that we are discussing here. Next, secondary productivity means rate of production of new organic matter by consumers. So after consuming whatever material we are building, that is secondary productivity. అర్థమైందా? Which of the following managed ecosystem has the highest amount of standing crop? Again name is different, but what is standing crop? బయోమాస్ ప్రొడక్టివిటీ మళ్ళీ అదే. సో విచ్ హ్యాస్ గ్రేటర్ బయోమాస్? అగ్రికల్చర్, గ్రేజింగ్ ల్యాండ్, హ్యూమన్ హ్యాబిటేషన్, ఫారెస్ట్ ప్లాంటేషన్. Forest, obviously forest will have greater, forest plantation will have a greater amount of biomass. Which has the least biomass? Human habitation, built up area. అక్కడ అసలు ఏమి ఉండదు, జస్ట్ ఆర్నమెంటల్ షో ప్లాంట్స్ ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. వాటి వల్ల ఏమీ అసలు ఏం జరగదు. నెక్స్ట్, విచ్ ఆఫ్ ద ఫాలోయింగ్ ఆర్ క్యారెక్టరిస్టిక్స్ ఆఫ్ ఎండమిక్ స్పీసీస్? సో వాట్ ఈస్ ఎండమిజం? They are limited to a specific geographical area. Okay. And also that means if they are available here, they are not found somewhere else. Okay, they are unique to that own region. Cosmopolitan distribution. Cosmopolitan ante enti? Worldwide available. Okay, that is not endemic species. It's there in the name itself. They are limited to a specific location. So this is false statement. Greater genetic exchange. Okay. See, these animals, they are limited to a particular small region. Okay, so the genetic exchange is not greater. This is false. Greater vulnerability to extinction. Okay, this is correct because if they are lost from one area, then there are no other species available. They are lost forever. They develop unique traits. Okay, that is also correct. Okay, so examples: unique traits, Australian species, marsupials. Okay, these animals, they have a carrying pouch for their babies. Which of the following properties are required for species to be dominant species? They have to be intelligent and aggressive, correct. Greater adaptability, correct. Competitive nature, correct. Larger population than others, correct. All are correct. So it is about humans. We humans are dominant species. We have all these traits. Consider the following statements regarding types of biodiversity. So we have alpha, beta and gamma. So I hope you know the difference for your revision. So this is one ecosystem, this is ecosystem 2, this is ecosystem 3. So what is alpha diversity? Within the ecosystem, how many different types of species are found? So here 4 different types of species are found. This is alpha. Okay, this is alpha. Now what is beta? Between two ecosystems, same. Between two ecosystems, common species ni beta antara, different species ni. So for example, ee ecosystem lo common edi undi? Idi common kada? Idi common e kada? So ee common unna species ni teeseste evaithe uncommon unnayo, unique species unnayo, that is beta 1, 2 and 3. So this is beta. Okay, gamma ante overall, if you see all these three circles, how many unique species are there, then that is beta. Okay, sorry, gamma. Alpha, see, now this is ecosystem 1, ecosystem 2 and ecosystem 3. These are 3 different habitats. Okay, now within this habitat we have different types of species are found here. So all are different to each other. So how many total number of these different species are found? That is alpha. So here the number is 1, 2, 3, 4. Ikkada 4 unnai. But see this, is this visible? Anvistunda? So in this diagram, if you see here, how many number of species are there? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 unnai ikkada. So we have 4 organisms, but how many are unique? 1, 2, 3. Rendu same. Okay. So 1, 2 and 3. So this is alpha again here. If you see here, how many? 1, 2, 3. Ee moodu same. So we are considering as one species only. This is second species. So here alpha is 2. Advainda? Now beta. Now let us consider the beta of these 2 species. So whatever unique species are, whatever common species are there between these 2, we will not count them. Okay. Now ఈ రెండిట్లో కామన్ ఏంటి? బ్లూ సర్కిల్. సో బ్లూ సర్కిల్ కామన్ ఉంది, దీంట్లో కామన్ ఉంది, దీంట్లో కూడా కామన్ ఉంది, మనం కౌంట్ చేయట్లేదు వాటిని. ఇంకా రెడ్ ట్రయాంగిల్, ఇది కూడా కామన్, ఈ రెండింటిని కౌంట్ చేయట్లేదు. ఓకే, సో if this common species are eliminated, whatever the leftover unique species, then it is beta. So 1, 2 and 3, this is beta. For example, for these 2, what is beta? దీనికి దీనికి కామన్ స్పీసీస్ ఏమున్నాయి దీనికి దీనికి ఎల్లో స్క్వేర్ ఒకటే కదా, ఇది ఒకటి తీసేస్తే దిస్ ఇస్ 1 స్పీసీస్, దిస్ ఈస్ 2, 3 and 4. ఓకే, సో దట్ ఈస్ బీటా. గామా అంటే ఏంటి? హోల్ అన్నిట్లోని యూనిక్ స్పీసీస్ ఏమున్నాయి అవి తీసేస్తే అవి దట్ ఈస్ గామా. తీయకూడదు, తీసేస్తే అంటే కన్సిడరేషన్ కోసం తీసుకోవాలి, ఎలిమినేట్ చేయకూడదు. ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ ఆల్ఫా 4 ఉంది, ఇక్కడ ఆల్ఫా 3 ఉంది, ఇక్కడ ఆల్ఫా 2 ఉంది, ఈ 3 కలిపేస్తే వచ్చేస్తుంది ఆన్సర్. మానసా ఇక్కడ 4 ఉంది, ఇక్కడ 3 ఉంది, ఇక్కడ 2 ఉంది, 4 + 3 + 2 పెడితే వచ్చేస్తుందా గామా డైవర్సిటీ? ఎందుకు రాదు? దీంట్లో కొన్ని కామన్ ఉన్నాయి, దీంట్లో కొన్ని కామన్ ఉన్నాయి, అన్నిట్లో కామన్ ఉన్నాయి సైడ్కి తీసేయాలన్నమాట. అప్పుడు మళ్ళీ అగైన్ అంటే మొత్తం ఎన్ని స్పీసీస్ ఉన్నాయో దట్ ఈస్ గామా డైవర్సిటీ. ఏవి రిమూవ్ చేయకూడదు, అంటే డబల్ కౌంటింగ్ చేయకూడదు అనమాట. డబల్ కౌంట్, వీ షుడ్ నాట్ డబల్ కౌంట్ ఎనీ స్పీసీస్ ట్వైస్. ఇక్కడ 4 ఉన్నాయి ఆల్ఫా స్పీసీస్, యూనిక్ స్పీసీస్, ఇక్కడ 3 ఉన్నాయి, ఇక్కడ 2 ఉన్నాయి, మొత్తం ఎంత అయింది? 4 + 3 7 8 9, మొత్తం 9 డిఫరెంట్ స్పీసీస్ ఉన్నాయా? లేవు కదా, ఎందుకంటే ఇక్కడ ఉన్న స్పీసీస్లో కొన్ని కామన్ ఉన్నాయి కదా, ఈ రెండిట్లోని ఈ మూడిట్లోని కొన్ని కామన్ ఉంటాయి కదా, అంటే వీ షుడ్ నాట్ కౌంట్ ద సేమ్ స్పీసీస్ ట్వైస్. ఓకే, దెన్ టోటల్ ఓవరాల్ యూనిక్ స్పీసీస్ దట్ ఈస్ gamma diversity. So which of the statements are incorrect? Alpha refers to number of species unique to that ecosystem. Beta refers to variety of species found in an ecosystem. Okay, these are interchanged statements. Okay, now see this question. This is about species richness, species evenness and species diversity. So while studying biodiversity, we have to study about alpha, beta, gamma diversity. After that, we also have to study about species richness and species evenness. Okay, now let us see 3 ecosystems A, B, C. ఇక్కడ 3 species ఉన్నాయి. Okay, but all of the 3 species have same number. That means even గా ఉన్నాయి అన్నమాట. ఉన్ను తక్కువైనా కానీ all the species are evenly distributed. So this ecosystem A has greater species evenness. Okay, so ecosystem A has greatest species evenness. Correct statement. So what do you mean by species richness? ఏ ఎకోసిస్టంలో డిఫరెంట్ నెంబర్ ఎక్కువ స్పీసీస్ ఉన్నాయి, దట్ ఈస్ స్పీసీస్ రిచ్నెస్. దేనికి ఎక్కువ ఉన్నాయి? సికి. ఓకే, సో సికి వీ హ్యావ్ 4 different types of species. So C has greatest species richness. Okay, now see this statement. Ecosystem B has lowest species richness. Correct. Ecosystem B లో రెండే ఉన్నాయి. Okay, this is correct. Ecosystem C has greatest species richness. Okay, this is also correct. Whereas ecosystem A is most diverse according to Shannon's index. So Shannon index అంటే ఏంటి? So Shannon biodiversity index, there is a formula, but you need not remember that formula. Only thing you have to keep in mind is that, so Shannon says that, see ఒక సిస్టంలో ఒక ఎకోసిస్టంలో ఎక్కువ స్పీసీస్ రిచ్నెస్ ఉన్నా, ఇంకో సిస్టంలో ఎక్కువ డైవర్సిటీ ఉన్నా కానీ we will not consider them as most diverse. So in an ecosystem there should be optimum balance between species richness and species evenness. సో రెండు సమానంగా ఉండాలి. సో సిలో స్పీసీస్ రిచ్నెస్ ఉంది, 4 different types of species ఉన్నాయి. అట్ ద సేమ్ టైం వేరియేషన్ మరీ ఎక్కువ ఉందా? వేరియేషన్ ఎక్కువేం లేదు. ఇక్కడ 25, 25, 30, 30. అగైన్ దీస్ 2 numbers are similar. Okay, so there is not that much of variation. Okay, so ecosystem C has greater biodiversity because it is balancing both these components. ఏంటి? Richness and evenness. Okay, ఎక్కువ number of species ఉన్నాయి, at the same time all the species are evenly balanced, their population is almost same. Okay, Shannon's index means, so there should be balance between richness and evenness. Okay, ante which criteria we should give more weightage? To both of these criteria. ఇప్పుడు ఏలో తీసుకుంటే ఏలో 3 స్పీసీస్ ఉన్నాయి, బట్ ఆల్ ఆఫ్ దెమ్ ఆర్ ఇన్ సేమ్ నంబర్, ఈవెన్ నంబర్. ఓకే, అన్ని ఈవెన్గా ఉన్నాయన్నమాట. బట్ వీ కెనాట్ కన్సిడర్ దిస్ మోస్ట్ డైవర్స్ బికాస్ హియర్ దిస్ స్పీసీస్ 4 is not present in this ecosystem A, whereas in ecosystem C all 4 species are present. At the same time a వేరియేషన్ ఎక్కువ ఉందా? ఎక్కువ వేరియేషన్ లేదు కదా. Whereas if you see B here, there is a greater variation. Okay, number 50, inko number 10 undi. Okay, anta variation ikkada ledanamata. Okay, so according to Shannon's biodiversity index, there should be a balance between both richness and evenness. Identify the incorrect statement regarding biomes. No two biomes are alike. Correct. Okay, so what is a biome? So the thing is, biome is a community of plant and animals are occupying a larger area who are adapted to that particular climatic conditions anamata. Okay, so no two biomes are alike. Okay, different biomes are different. So on what basis biomes are classified? Climatic parameters, mostly rainfall and temperature. Okay, so the limits of biomes are dictated by temperature and rainfall, correct? An ecosystem can contain multiple biomes. Okay, this is false because a biome can contain multiple ecosystems. So ecosystem is the smallest functional unit. Okay, whereas biome is the largest possible territorial extent of a plant and animal community. Okay, so they are complete opposites. Okay, ecosystem is the smallest functional unit, whereas biome is the largest. Biomes are not used to describe aquatic ecosystems. Okay, you may confuse, but this is in fact correct statement. Manam general ga vadutunnappudu aquatic biome anestamu, but biomes are only limited to terrestrial areas. Okay, so usually aquatic ecosystems or aquatic habitats should not be called as biomes, but in general sense we can use that word. Okay. Which of the following is or are the factors that limit productivity of aquatic habitat? Temperature, yes or no? Yes, temperature of water. Precipitation, no. Sunlight, yes. Dissolved oxygen, yes. Transparency, yes. What is transparency? Transparency to the sunlight. If there are more sediments in water, then what can happen? Sunlight penetrate avadu, akkada corals gaani evana unte emothayi chanipotayi anamata. Consider the following statements regarding freshwater biome. So in a freshwater biome or a pond or aquatic biome, we have different zones. Okay, so ఎంతవరకు సన్లైట్ వెళ్తే that we call as photic. Okay, ఇంకా limnatic అంటే ఏంటి? Photic zone is called as limnatic zone. Again, what is littoral zone? Near to the shore. Okay, next what is profundal zone? Beneath this, where sunlight cannot reach, that is profundal. Benthic ante deep. Okay, there is no sunlight, there is no oxygen also. Okay, that is benthic zone. So like this is limnatic, this is profundal, benthic, this is littoral zone. Where can we find most biodiversity? Littoral, because littoral zone is an ecotone, aquatic and terrestrial. It is present in this ecotone. So littoral zone has greatest productivity and high diversity, correct? Limnatic zone is inhabited by detrivores and decomposers. So I mean this one, this is composed by detrivores and decomposers. No, where do they reside? Benthic. Next, sunlight cannot penetrate into profundal zone. This is correct. Consider the following statements. Habitat loss and fragmentation is the major reason for loss of biodiversity. Okay, that is correct. Loss of biodiversity lo untai చాలా చెప్పాను మీకు ఏంటది evil quartet. Okay, ఏముంటాయి అవి? Habitat loss, invasive alien species, co-extinctions, overexploitation. This is the correct statement. Biodiversity hotspots are regions with high species richness and low endemism. This is wrong statement because wrong or right? Hotspots, biodiversity hotspots are regions with high species richness and high endemism kada, not low endemism. False. India has 4 biodiversity hotspots. Entavi? Himalayas, ఇండో బర్మాలో ఏమొస్తుంది ఇండియాలో? Yeah, northeastern states. Next, Western Ghats. Next, Sundaland. Sundaland లో ఏమొస్తాయి మళ్ళీ నికోబార్ గ్రూప్ ఆఫ్ ఐలాండ్స్ ఓన్లీ, నాట్ అండమాన్, ఓన్లీ నికోబార్ గ్రూప్ ఆఫ్ ఐలాండ్స్. ఓకే, సో ఇన్ స్టేట్మెంట్స్ ఈస్టర్న్ హిమాలయస్ వచ్చినాయి, ఈస్టర్న్ ఘాట్స్ అన్నీ ఇచ్చేసారు, అవన్నీ కాదు. ఓకే, ఓన్లీ దీస్ 4 ఆర్ బయోడైవర్సిటీ హాట్స్పాట్స్ ఫ్రమ్ ఇండియా. ఓన్లీ స్టేట్మెంట్ 1 is correct. Which of the following plants are alien invasive species in India? Okay, so all of these options which are given here, they are alien invasive species in India only. Okay, Parthenium, I told you right, Parthenium, Congress weed, water hyacinth, Prosopis julifera. Prosopis julifera అంటే అది చింత చెట్లా ఉంటుంది, పొట్టిగా చింత చెట్లా ఉంటుంది, ఎక్కడ పడితే ఆ రోడ్ల పైన ఇండియా మొత్తం ఉంటుంది అనమాట అది. Lantana camara, Datura flower, even touch me not, even these are all alien invasive species. Okay, what are the constitutional provisions to protect biodiversity in India? 48A and 51A. What is 48A? It is DPSP. Okay, 51A ante fundamental duty. Meghalaya is popular for this living root bridges. It is made of rubber tree. Cheetahs. Asiatic cheetah is critically endangered species found in Iran only. Okay, so only in Iran few less than 50 Asiatic cheetahs are left. Okay, that is correct statement. Asiatic cheetah is larger in size than African cheetah. No. Okay, Asiatic cheetah is smaller and much cuter than African cheetah. Okay, this is false statement. And African cheetah is considered as ancestor for all cheetah. That is correct. Great Indian bustard. It is a heavy and flightless bird like ostrich. Kadu. See, Great Indian bustard is a heavy bird, but it is still capable of flying. Okay, this is false statement. It is endemic to Indian subcontinent. Correct. Desert National Park, Rajasthan, it is the ecosystem, natural ecosystem. That is correct. Okay, so first statement is wrong, all 2 statements are correct. Consider the following statements regarding elephants in India. Elephants in India enjoy the same level of protection as tiger. Correct? Yes. So almost many animals enjoy the same level of protection as tiger. That means they are specified in Species Conservation Program ఒకటే కాదు, but majorly in this Wildlife Protection Act Schedule 1. Okay, so all many animals are there in Wildlife Protection Act Schedule 1 and they enjoy the same level of protection. But see the second statement. Unlike tiger reserves, see tiger reserves have a different kind of protection. Okay, we have core area, buffer area kind of protection. Core area is called as critical tiger habitat. So ante tiger reserves lo aithe core area antamo, that is called as critical tiger habitat. Okay, whereas for elephant reserves, they are not protected areas in true sense, they are only administrative delineation. Okay, ante a region should come under which state or for in which district, only for administrative purposes they have categorized elephant reserves. Okay, but there is no true protection offered in elephant reserves. So second statement correct. Assam is the largest state with largest number of elephant reserves. Okay, question lo tiger reserve vachindi, that should be elephant reserves. Okay, so this is correct statement. So which state has greatest number of tiger reserves? Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. 6 unnai. I have given that few stats in this slide, you can see this. So how many tiger reserves are in India totally?
54.
They are considered according to official website NTCN, National Tiger Conservation Authority, 53 ఉన్నాయి అన్నమాట. ఓకే, ఇది 50. వాట్ ఈస్ ద లేటెస్ట్? రాణిపూర్ లాస్ట్. ఇంకా యాడ్ అయిపోయిందా? నోటిఫికేషన్ వచ్చిందా? నోటిఫికేషన్ వస్తే కానీ ఇంకా యాడ్ అయినట్టు అంటే వెబ్సైట్లో చూడండి, మరేమో మేబీ దే హ్యావ్ నాట్ అప్డేటెడ్. బట్ ఓకే, బట్ 53rd టైగర్ రిజర్వ్ ఈస్ రాణిపూర్ ఇన్ ఉత్తరప్రదేశ్. ఓకే, వాట్ ఈస్ ద టైగర్ IUCN? Status endangered. See, this question has come twice already. Which tiger reserve in India has largest area under critical tiger habitat? So critical tiger habitat ante emi kaadu, core area, okay, where there is strict kind of protection. Okay, Nagarjuna Sagar, largest area under core area, whereas smallest is Orang. Orang ekkadundi? Orang tiger reserve, Assam. Next, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra states with the largest number of tiger reserves, 6. So in India the tiger population is presently 2900, and which state is called as tiger state? Madhya Pradesh. Okay, Madhya Pradesh has the largest number of tigers. Adi Madhya Pradesh Karnataka ki tiger population పెద్ద difference ఏం లేదు, just only 2 or 3 tigers difference ఉంటుంది అంతే. Okay, but this is the sequence, but this is the recorded estimate. So Madhya Pradesh is the largest state with, state with most number of tigers, followed by Karnataka, followed by Uttarakhand. Okay, so regarding elephants, we have 33 elephant reserves. The latest elephant reserve is Terai Elephant Reserve. Okay, recently added in. Again, elephant is also endangered. Again, so similar question we may expect. Better to know. The largest elephant reserve is Mysore Elephant Reserve. Smallest is Singpan. Next, Assam and Tamil Nadu states with the most number of elephant reserves in India. So again, elephant population we have 27,000 elephants. Okay, so among them, Karnataka has the greatest number of elephants, followed by Assam and Kerala. ఇంకా ఏషియాటిక్ లయన్స్ ఇండియాలో ఎన్ని ఉన్నాయి అక్కర్లేదు, అసలు ఎక్కడ ఉన్నాయి? గుజరాత్. ఓకే, ఓన్లీ ఇన్ గుజరాత్ దే ఆర్ ఫౌండ్, నాట్ ఇన్ ఎనీ అదర్ ప్లేసెస్. ఓకే, సో దిస్ ఈస్ అబౌట్ బయోఫ్యూయల్స్. వాట్ కుడ్ బి ద పాసిబుల్ రీజన్ ఫర్ క్రిటిసిజం ఫర్ రిలయన్స్ ఆన్ ఫస్ట్ జనరేషన్ ఆఫ్ బయోఫ్యూయల్స్? సో యూ షుడ్ నో, ముందు వాటి క్రిటిసిజం ఏంటో తెలియాలంటే యూ షుడ్ నో వాట్ ఆర్ ఫస్ట్ జనరేషన్ బయోఫ్యూయల్స్. ఏంటవి? ఫుడ్ రిలేటెడ్ సోర్సెస్. ఓకే, so in India we have how many types of, not in India, so generally biofuels are classified under 4 categories, 4 generations, first, second, third and fourth generations. So first generation biofuels, they are related to food related sources. Okay, like sugar cane, beet sugar, wheat, or all of these come under first generation biofuels. But our reliance on this first generation of biofuels is criticized because of some reasons. They are threat to food security. If all the food sources are converted into biofuels, what will be left to eat? So this debate like food versus fuel debate. Okay, మొత్తం ఫ్యూయల్కి వెళ్ళిపోతే తినడానికి ఏముంటుంది? ఇండియా ఆల్రెడీ సో మచ్ పవర్టీ అంతా ఉంది. We cannot depend, we cannot rely on first generation biofuels because they are food sources. Second, unsafe to store and handle. Okay, this is false because comparatively biofuels are safer to store and handle. So this is not the primary criticism. Huge requirement of arable land. Exactly, if you want to produce more food, we need more land. Greater water footprint. Okay, in order to produce this, even if you want to produce biofuels, we need food grains. For that we need more amount of water also. Threat to biodiversity. Yes, because we have to go for monoculture. If you are going for monoculture, it will be a threat to biodiversity. So 1, 3, 4 and 5, this is the correct statement. Now these are biofuels, 4 generations of biofuels. So first generation are food sources, edible biomass. Okay, like sugar beet, sugar corn starch, wheat, rice, soybean, etc. Okay, but the major problem is they are having high greenhouse gas emissions. That means during agriculture is one of the major contributor for greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, not just that, even while processing these food related biofuels also, even this whole process releases so much of greenhouse gas emissions anamata. So now major question arises, why are we going for biofuels? To reduce carbon, fossil fuel emissions. Okay, so even if you are going for biofuels and you are getting the same level of emissions, what is the use? Okay, so that led to the second generation of biofuels. What is second generation? Non-food sources like grasses, wheat stalks, paddy stalks, okay, wood chips, barks, etc. Whatever leftover material, organic waste, these all are feedstock for second generation biofuels. They are having comparatively lower emissions and greenhouse gas footprint, water footprint, etc. Next, third generation are algae. Okay, so we can we can generate algae, and from that algae we can create biofuel. So this is carbon neutral. Okay, it is not having much impact. Okay, because there is again third generation biofuel, it addresses many of the concerns with first and second generation biofuels. Okay, microscopic biomass, algae and microbes, etc. It is carbon neutral, whereas fourth generation biofuels are the latest inventions, okay, like scientific breakthroughs. So it involves GM crops, genetically altered algae, okay, GM crops which produce more oil content, etc. And it also incorporates new technology like carbon sequestration. Okay, so we are not emitting the carbon dioxide, but we are taking even the extra amount of carbon from the atmosphere. Like what is biomass? Plant matter undi kada, ela vastundi carbon dioxide. It absorbs the carbon dioxide from atmosphere and it is creating it into organic matter. If you are producing more plants, it means that organic atmospheric carbon dioxide is turning into biomass. Okay, so it is carbon sequestrating. At the same time, it is also we are taking that carbon and we are storing it into some other areas, you know, which we cannot explore. So it is in fact carbon negative. Okay, so last one, biodiversity cold spot. Anasanga ichina question chala controversy. So actually many different coaching websites, they have told that it is a region with high biodiversity and low threat. ఏ చెప్పారు ఇదా? Low biodiversity and high threat. Okay, so again like Shankar IAS and Prep Ladder chala, they are telling it is a region with low biodiversity and high threat. Okay, but there is no authentic source from where they have gathered. I don't know. There ante proper edana ippudu biodiversity hotspot ante enti, it has some criteria. 1500 endemic plants undali, inka 70% biodiversity loss, habitat loss undali. It was given by Conservation International. But biodiversity cold spot ki atvanti standard criteria em ledu anamata. Okay, so but there are some research articles which I found. So these research articles, they are saying, okay, it is an area with high biodiversity and low threat. Another research, they are telling it is an area with low biodiversity and low threat. This is important from your perspective. Cold spots, not hot spots, are key to rapid biodiversification. So they are saying that hot spots ante enti, hot spots lo already ekku biodiversity untadi and there is a greater threat also. Okay, so if you want to conserve biodiversity, instead of just focusing on hot spots, now we should shift our focus towards cold spots. Again, according to them, cold spot means where there is low biodiversity. Okay, so they have pointed that cold spots are regions with low biodiversity. Ante, they did not again say about threat levels. Threat low undala, high undala ani cheppaledu anamata. Okay, so only take this much from cold spot. What is cold spot? Ante.